All right, today's guest is Jake Ingledue. He is the host of the Growth Circle podcast and much more. Jake, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. I'm super excited to be on here. I just love what you've got going on with your platform because it's super exciting to see people actually promote how failure is good. So I love your platform, love what you got going on, and I'm super excited to be on the podcast.
Well, thanks, Jake. Yeah, I'm excited to have you. I loved being on your podcast, Growth Circle. Had a really cool discussion there. So if anyone hasn't heard that episode, they should definitely go there. I'll link it in the show notes. So you guys should definitely go listen to that. It was a really fun conversation. I felt like we touched on some things that I don't normally touch on in podcast interviews.
Yeah,
so
it was
really
fun.
good. So anyway, obviously this is about you, Jake. So I want you to tell the audience kind of your backstory. Tell them how you, actually you can go back as far as you want, but tell them how you came to run a podcast and then kind of, how that started and where you're going now.
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to start kind of where I'm at currently and kind of give an idea of like where I'm at? So I'm just an average dude with above average dreams.
Love it.
Like I have financial freedom, right? I don't live paycheck to paycheck. I'm on paper, quote unquote, a millionaire. I don't feel like a millionaire. I have like no money. But what I do have is a lot of time. And so, I've got a podcast, I've got a pest control business, I've got a lawn mowing business, I invest in real estate, and I'm about to launch another podcast. And so it's been a fun journey because, I don't have to stress out about paycheck to paycheck, and I get to pursue things that are important to me and spend more time with things that matter to me, like my family and stuff. So long story short, right out of high school, I joined the military. I did security forces, which is basically like a cop, except for when I was over in Afghanistan, you could get tasked with different things. And I got tasked with a unit called the Reapers, and we did all outside the wire missions. So basically it was like a quick response force. So anytime we got mortared in the middle of the night, we got geared up, we rushed out to find out where, we got mortared from, and tried to round up the guys and stuff. So it wasn't like anything crazy, but like probably more crazy than the average American has gotten to experience.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like super crazy. But
and I've got to ask real quick, did you get a Reapers tattoo? Do you have a Reapers tattoo?
No, okay. I have no tattoos, but I do have, my wife for my birthday got me this big flag that's got like the Reaper call sign on it.
Yeah.
And then behind it, it's like ammo and guns and stuff. So it's pretty cool. But
awesome.
No, I don't have any tattoos.
Okay.
Thank goodness, man.
I mean, tattoos are cool, but a Reaper's tattoo would be pretty cool. So that's where I was just curious.
Yeah, I can't pull it off. You have to be jacked for tattoos in my mind. So
that's true. It's a good point.
But yeah, so I joined the military right out of high school, did Afghanistan. Right after I got back from Afghanistan, I went on a 2-year church mission. And I'm from Oregon. So I came to the Midwest. The first area I came to was near Springfield, Missouri. So long story short, served a 2-year mission, met a girl on the mission, went home, was home for 5 days, came back. Within 3 months, we were married because we had been writing letters the whole time. And so we've been married for, 7-8 years now, 2 kids.
That's awesome.
And basically what I did is while I was going to college, I was going to school to be a dentist of all things, was over halfway through my major, super excited about becoming a dentist because of the thought of like making good money and having more control of my time. But this whole time that I was going to school, I was doing door-to-door pest control sales. And my first summer in Houston, Texas, I made 50 grand in one summer. Wow. And I was like, holy cow, if I can make that as a college student, like what is this company making? And it just kind of got the wheels spinning. And I was already obsessed with like entrepreneurship and real estate investing. So basically I dropped out of college, started a pest control business, and that's how it segued into all the other stuff that I've got going on.
That's awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for your service.
Thanks, man.
That's awesome. I know it's a sacrifice to do that, even though, a lot of guys I talk to are like, man, it was a joy. It was a pleasure to do it. It's still a sacrifice. So thank you. And then secondly, I'm curious, you said at the beginning, but you said now you don't really stress about finances. You have more time. Was there a time that you stressed about finances, like in that entrepreneurial journey? And then what was the tipping point there?
Yeah, for sure. Of course I obsessed because I was not currently living the lifestyle that I wanted. And when I started the pest control business, I didn't own a business. I owned another job. And so I had to quickly learn how important it is to, create a vision, and use that vision to help propel your success, but also create systems so that you can free up your time. And so that's kind of what I did, is I just focused on creating systems, just kind of hustling at the beginning with my pest control business. And then I got to a point where all of a sudden I was doing less of the day-to-day operations because of the systems I created. And now I was freed up to go, oh, now I can pursue real estate more. Oh, now I can pursue the podcast more. Now I can go on vacations more with my family and still run my business because I'm mobile now. So I don't have to be, where my business resides.
Yeah. What was the path from business to real estate to podcast? Like, why those three things?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Well, so I was always, like I told you, I was into real estate from while I was in college. While I was in college, I was like looking at deals and going to look at deals, reading tons of books, following Bigger Pockets, like obsessed with the Burr method, yada, yada, yada. And the first house we bought was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. And we used a VA loan. So it was zero down. We bought it for $60,000, this cute little house. And I knew when I bought that house, this is going to be a rental someday. And in that time of buying that house and starting my pest control business and having a new baby, it's a lot. Within that first year, I also had bought my first rental property. And so that was my first one I bought. And then I just started buying more. And the next thing you know, I was like, you know what? I think it'd be fun to have a podcast because I love talking to people. Obviously, you can tell I've got the gift of gab, but I love asking people questions and hearing like truly deeply connecting with people. Like I'm tired. I get so tired with the surface level conversations. I'm like, let's get deeper. Let's get to some substance and let me like really, truly connect with you and be more vulnerable. And I love that about a podcast because a lot of times it gives me that opportunity.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So it's interesting. You had real estate kind of on your mind from the beginning, which is really cool. And then I totally agree about the podcast. It's almost like a forced presence where a lot of people, I think, can struggle, and I can struggle on this too, where in a conversation, it's really hard to be present. But the fun thing about a podcast is you are making someone be present, because if they're not present, the conversation's probably not going to go anywhere. So
yeah. And then you're not giving any value to your listeners or whatever,
exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. I'm curious, kind of about some mentorship. Like, how did you? Well, first of all, there's a couple different things, but you said you went on a 2-year mission. You said you were in the military. Who did you have growing up that was pouring into you, that was kind of leading you into maybe even decisions or encouraging you a certain direction? And then who do you have now?
Yeah. So to be honest, I don't feel like this is fair to say. Like, I want to say no one at the beginning. And I don't feel like that's fair to say because like my parents are good people, but they're people that, struggled paying their bills. They've been bankrupt couple times. Like, they never asked me about what was going on in school. They didn't really care about what was going on in my little world. So I think I was left it to myself in all reality. And that's a long story in and of itself. But currently, or through my journey, a lot of my mentors have literally been reading books. Like I'm obsessed with self-improvement and growth. And I think everybody should be. So I constantly am reading books. I'm constantly listening to podcasts. I have a lot of mentors that don't even know they're my mentors because it's not like a formal thing that I learned from. So I've got a lot, and I've had a lot of key mentors that have helped me along the way to get to where I'm at today for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love the books thing. I think that's such an easy path for people. And it really is. It's crazy if you really think about it. And I know people have talked about it before, but if you think about it, a lot of books are a lot of hours. Sometimes it's an entire life wrapped up in one book. So it's like having a mentor in your pocket. So sometimes I feel like people can overlook the book as a mentor because it's so simple, it's so easy to access. But man, there's gold in books, and I wish more people would open their eyes to that.
And what's so funny about it too, this is, and I know you're spiritual and Christian and stuff, but like the easiness of the way, like for whatever reason, because of the easiness of the way, a lot of times we don't do these things that have huge implications and impact on our life. And I love reading books. Actually, the way I do it, and this is just a little hack that's been super helpful to me, is I listen to it on like a 1.5 speed or higher, but typically about a 1.5 speed. I read along with it, with the book and the audio, and then I'll pause it, make notes, right? And I just learn so much faster that way.
That's awesome. Yeah, that I've never tried that before. Usually I'm like highlighting things and doing that, but I bet that helps a lot.
Oh, a ton. And it helps me read faster. Like I've learned to read faster just because it's on a faster speed. So I'm
Yeah.
hearing it at a faster rate. But
And
anyways,
talking
that's just
about
a
being,
little.
yeah, talking about being present. I mean, you are present. Like you're not focused on any audio while you're reading. Cause that's sometimes I can do when I'm reading. If I'm in an environment, my mind can wander and then I
Yeah.
go through a whole page and I'm like, crap, what did I just
Yeah.
read? I got to go back and read it. So that's a good way to do that. I may have to try that.
Yeah. What I also like to do that I've got, you can't see my office, but I've got whiteboards literally all around me. Cause a lot of times what I'll do too, if I learn a concept from a book, I will try to write it on the whiteboard and try to like reteach myself it and like, okay, try to piece things together that weren't quite connecting. And then I go, how can I apply it to my current life or business now? And then I just learn more that way. And then if I teach somebody else that, which is also part of the reason why I do a podcast and some of the content is because not necessarily because I'm a guru at those things. I'm teaching somebody else what I just learned so that it solidifies what I've already learned.
For sure. And that's what I talk to people because there are people who are like, well, who are you to run a podcast? Who are you to do this? And I'm like, really, I'm just learning on the fly. I'm just publishing it. So it's like a public journal. That's the way I look at it. It's like if you wanna listen along and learn with me, cool. If not, it's okay. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. I love it. That's exactly why I started a podcast. It was to learn and grow and to connect with people and hopefully provide value to other people. But selfishly, a lot of it's just for my own personal growth.
Yeah, no, I definitely know you provide value for sure. So I'll put you on the spot. What's your favorite book from last year and then your favorite podcast you were listening to last year?
Okay. My favorite podcast from last year is probably the Ed Milet podcast. So that's an easy one for me. And my favorite book from this last year. Ooh,
a tough one.
That's a tough one because I've read so many last year. I would probably have to say $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi.
I haven't read that one. I don't think I've even heard
so
of that one.
good as far as like marketing and creating offers that people feel stupid not to say yes to. It's so good.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah.
And then I agree on the Ed Milet. I really like Ed Milet. I actually just had a road trip today and I listened to him with John Gordon. Have you heard that one? It's the newest one.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so you should listen. I love John Gordon. I've read John Gordon books for a while now, and the whole podcast interview is just really cool. It obviously John's a Christian and he is very spiritual, so they kind of go down the spiritual rabbit hole. And they talk about neurological pathways and it's a really good episode. So you should check that one out. I may just link it.
I'll definitely check it out. He's my favorite. He's probably my favorite podcaster. Just the way he conducts himself, the way the content he brings on. I mean, if I could be like any podcaster, it'd probably be Ed Milet, man. I just love that dude.
He's definitely got an energy about him. I mean, I think he'd scare me if I saw him in person. I'm like, are you gonna hurt me? But
for sure,
he does a good job.
Yeah.
So obviously the topic of this podcast is failure. So let's kind of touch on some failures. Can you think of any stories of failures just starting out? And then before you get to the stories too, kind of tell me how failures have played a role in your success.
Yeah, it's man, where do I start? Because I have so many failures.
Yes.
This is what I love about like your podcast and this platform is man, I get to be vulnerable and share with the world all the mistakes and mishaps that I've made. Which is kind of cool because that's where learning happens.
Absolutely.
Let me share with you one of my biggest failures that I still hold on to sometimes. It was in door-to-door pest control sales. So like my first summer, I told you I made 50 grand, which is like, that's a lot to a college student in one summer. That's a lot of money, but I have friends making 100K, 200K, 300K in one summer.
Wow.
And I was a naturally gifted salesman. Not because I was good at like sales tactics, but because I could quickly, genuinely connect with somebody. And so I think a lot of times I just bought. So I was really good. So I was always ahead of everybody in sales. Like that was on my team. I was like, boom, boom, boom. And I just blow them out of the water. But there's this one summer that I blew everybody out of the water. I got to like 100 sales. I was like the first one to 100 sales. And then something's happened in me, like where I was just like, what's the point of this? Like, I'm not motivated by money. I kind of discovered that. And I just kind of went through this like almost depression state to where I just was like being a lazy sack. And I shouldn't say completely lazy, because like I was researching marketing and how to start an online business, which a lot of that stuff I learned actually helped me with my pest control business and the podcast and stuff that I see now down the road. But my biggest regret is I wish that I would have grinded a little harder and been more consistent with the sales, because I was so good at it. I could have made so much money my last summer that starting a pest control business would have been a lot easier.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But I mean, obviously it's easy to be hard on yourself looking back, but
Yeah.
in the moment it sounded like you were just searching for purpose, because you discovered that, money isn't everything, but it's almost like a time to reflect. So you say that you weren't grinding, but maybe you're just in a moment of reflection, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because I've come since then. That was like the first moment I noticed it. And I actually haven't publicly talked about this, but I think, and I haven't tested myself, but I think I might be like either on the spectrum for either like autism, or I'm either OCD, ADD, or bipolar, which I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs feel that way.
Yeah.
But I go through these cycles, like with the seasons where I'm super manic and super high achiever, you can't stop me, to where I go into this like almost more lazy, more lackadaisical, but it's a lot, but I do a lot of inner reflection. So I don't know.
No, if I can speak to that genuinely, I don't think you have OCD. I don't think you have any of that. I feel like I have the same things. Like there are moments and there are seasons where it's just like, I know it's go time and I go and I'm excited. And then there's moments of reflection where I'm really not producing anything potentially. But I'm really enjoying where I'm at. And maybe I'm reading a ton, I'm praying a ton, I'm walking, and I'm not like, quote unquote worldly, just producing. But I'm in a moment. So it's almost like it's like the entrepreneur or like creative roller coaster. Like you're going up and down and up and down. And it's almost one of those things where you just have to enjoy the ride and not maybe point fingers, or at least I try to do this, not point fingers at myself to be like, oh, I'm weird because I was grinding a month ago. Now I'm like hanging out and I haven't done anything for 3 days.
Well, it's so hard because like the American culture and just like the stigmatism around business and entrepreneurship, it's like grind. But I've come to learn that I actually grind better and I perform better and I have better balance or harmony in my life when I create a schedule that has little moments of like hyper-focused grind time. But then I also have like fun and leisure and like social time and like family time, and just creating a more balanced lifestyle, which I know some people are like, oh, there's no such thing. You just, be Grant Cardone, be obsessed or be average, which I freaking do love that statement.
Yeah.
But I think you can do both. I think you can both grind and have more harmony in your life.
I agree. I think you grind in blocks. I think that's the key, because I do like I like a lot of stuff that Grant Cardone says, but I also think some of it can be detrimental if you really do it.
Yeah.
But I'm all about like focus. I mean, you've heard of like focus blocks. It's like I can grind within a 4-hour period and focus, turn off all distractions, and grind more in those 4 hours than most people can in 12.
Yeah.
And then the next 4 hours, I can like quote unquote grind, but I can relax with my wife and just be like, I'm going to just enjoy this.
Yeah.
And so on the surface, maybe it looks like I'm only working 20 hours a week, but actually I'm just hyper focused.
Yeah. That's probably the biggest lesson I learned this last year was just, first giving myself grace and knowing that I'm human and I don't have to be perfect, or I don't have to compare myself to other people. That's why having a personal vision is so important, because like if you from social media or your peer group and you see what they got going on, you feel like you have to keep up with them. This last year has been such a good turning point for me, because I've been able to reflect more and go, well, do I really want to do that much real estate and grind and volume? Do I really want to do this, and this? And I've kind of like, I've just cut things out of my life that have caused stress or haven't served me in any good way. Like, and I'm not saying that stress is a bad thing. Like for sure, like stress is good. There's good stress to like push yourself and get outside your comfort zone. But man, I'm a big believer of harmony now.
Yeah. No, I love
Yeah.
it. And I think we talked about it on your podcast, but did we talk about the ruthless elimination of hurry, that book?
Honestly, I don't
I don't
remember.
know if I mentioned it, but if I didn't, if you haven't read that book, you should read it. And then there's another one called To Hell with the Hustle,
Hmm.
that are both written by pastors, but they just talk about like slowing down and like
Yeah.
kind of time blocking and when to say no and when not to. And I think both of those books really made me think like, yeah, I don't have to work 16-hour days to become successful. Like it can
Yeah.
be a slow, like hustle can be a consistency instead of a grind.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
it opened my eyes to that.
Yeah. That's
But
that's that's so good. That's so
yeah.
good.
Well, let's get into kind of some stuff you have on the rise because I know, you like you said, you love personal visions. You're a goals guy. I'm a goals guy. What do you have coming up that goals or projects that that scare or intimidate you or just something new?
Yeah. Wow. I think the things I'm about to say highlight almost all those.
I love it.
Well, so this year for my biggest focuses right now is I'm trying to systematize. I've systematized my pest control business. So now I'm trying to systematize my life to where we have more routines in place to where I am spending more intentional time on either spending time with family or when I'm working, I'm intentional with it, or when I'm having fun, like I'm intentional with it, and just being more structured, I guess, in a way,
Yeah.
but giving myself grace that if this day, because life happens, or this day, if I didn't exercise today, don't beat yourself up. Just don't miss tomorrow,
Yep.
kind of
Exactly.
thing. So I've been focusing on that. And then I'm really right now, I'm trying to push to launch a new podcast called the Pest Control Entrepreneurship Podcast. And basically, the purpose of it is to guide people so that they can achieve financial freedom and fulfillment through pest control entrepreneurship, because I've already done that and I know how to do it. And because of all the mistakes and lessons I've learned, I think I can help somebody get there quicker. And so like, that's going to be my new focus, is helping young entrepreneurs start and grow a pest control company. And then we might segue into maybe service-based businesses, because I also have a lawn mowing company. But that's kind of like my big goal right now, is to get that launched, get that going. I'm really this year I'm focusing more on creative stuff instead of
Yeah.
like monetary goals. I'm more like focusing on routines, and
Yeah.
I have a whole system of like making sure that I'm doing those routines at least 70% of the time, like 80-20 principle, right?
Yeah.
70 to 80% of the time, and giving myself grace. So if like there's days I don't, hit those things, it's okay. As
Yeah.
long as I'm on 70 to 80% of the time, because consistency is going to compound itself over time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know this is kind of generic, but have you heard of the 2-day rule?
No.
So
Oh, you know what? I think I maybe have. Is it like what Atomic Habits talks about, where it's like you can miss one day, but don't miss two?
yeah, I think it is in Habits. But yeah, that's what if you're learning something new or trying to get a new habit, it's like give yourself grace in that one day you miss and then just get back on the horse, which is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which definitely helps me too, because there are times where I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this. I have a day off. And then I'm like, well, I guess I got to do it today or just
Yeah.
stop doing it.
I think the something that I've also learned is like, you can also too, is like, as long, even if you, like I call them 1 minute or 5 minute miracles,
Yeah.
even if like, say you're supposed to exercise today and you're like, dude, I don't have time, I don't feel like it, blah 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 blah, at least do 1 minute or 5 minutes of exercise, even if it's just like air squats,
Yep.
push-ups or whatever, because you're still casting votes, just like in Atomic Habits, like, but you're still casting votes for the type of person you want to become. And so you're basically saying, I'm the type of person that shows up and works out. So just even the small little micro miracles or whatever you want to call them matter.
I love it. Yeah. And I don't know if I should share the secret, but I will. I still have not read Atomic Habits.
Oh, dude, you've
I know.
got to.
I've
It's so
talked to
good.
so many people like it's so good. I've heard why cannot I think of the guy's name that wrote
James
it?
Clear.
James Clear. I've heard James Clear
Yeah.
on podcasts and I've heard him talk. I really like him. I just haven't read it yet. I still it's on my list. I just haven't read it. So
Yeah, it's good. It's good,
I
man.
should get around to it.
It's good. That one and Power of Habit.
Yep.
And then Slight Edge. Those
Slight Edge.
three.
I haven't heard of that one.
Oh, dude, it's so good. Have you read The Compound Effect?
Yeah, I love the compound effect.
Okay, it's kind of like The Compound Effect, but I think it's better. But it's
Okay.
one of those books, like, I think he didn't set it up to where you can get it on audiobook. You have to buy the physical copy.
Oh wow.
But
Okay.
it's good. It's good.
Yeah, the compound effect is probably one of my top 2 books. Like I
Same.
love the compound effect. It really
Yeah.
changes. So the slight edge is what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll look that one up. Definitely look that one. It may go in my newsletter as a recommendation. Who knows?
Yeah. And it's essentially like the compound effect. It's just basically, and atomic habits. It's like just consistently doing the small things is going to compound itself over time. And then you're going to see significant results. And people are all of a sudden going to say, oh, you're an overnight success, but really you did small, tiny things that led to the big, miracles or whatever.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's play this out. Let's say 6 months from now, you start the new podcast and it grows and it grows, and someone comes to you and they say, man, you're just an overnight success. How would you explain that to them? What would you say to them?
That's a good question. I don't know. I might respond like it sure doesn't feel like it, because like you didn't see what I had to do daily and all the, just the mindset and psychological stuff behind everything. Cause I mean, gosh, it's such an inner battle. Success is such an inner battle, and it's all relative too. That's what's so funny about success. It's like, you don't have to have millions to have financial freedom and to live the life that you truly love and that you've designed for yourself. But anyways, to go back to the question, sorry, I kind of side railed a little bit. Man, I don't know what I would say to that. I'd probably just be like, if only you knew, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
What was it? Someone told, or I don't know if I heard it or I was talking to someone, but they basically said if they want someone to ask a question, they'll just say, you don't want to know, or like you wouldn't understand, and then it like piques their interest and like, well, okay, then they start asking questions.
That is good.
So I thought was an interesting way to segue into like maybe telling someone where you came from or whatever it is. So
yeah,
I remember that one.
Or you could do like split the difference and ask like a no question, like like, do you think it was easy?
Yeah.
Just like ask them, do you think it was easy? And then they might be like, oh, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah. Or they just say yes, like, yeah. And they're like, oh, well, that didn't work.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Never mind. We'll just move on. So
yeah, I'm not sure what I would say. I've never actually I don't feel like I've had the status that's portrayed on social media of like what success looks like.
Yeah.
But so I don't know if anybody would ever say that to me, but I've already in my mind have achieved a certain level of success because it's all relative to me. It doesn't matter what Justin thinks about my success. I'm enjoying my success because I'm living a life that I enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's really good. I kind of want to go back too, because I'm curious. So you mentioned it, I mentioned it, but the 2-year mission that you went on, what was that?
Yeah. So I started a 2-year mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And which is funny because it helped me with door to door. Because basically what I'm doing is going door to door, and I'm just sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ and trying to share the message of Jesus Christ. And just teaching people is basically what we did, or service projects and stuff. And I did that for 2 years, and we couldn't like, you've seen the missionaries out with the white shirts and ties, like that was me. And we couldn't, do like no girls, no going on dates, no like going to movies. Well, so it's funny because I'd gotten back from Afghanistan. So I was 22 when I went on a church mission.
Okay.
So most of the guys that are going on church missions are between 18 and 20. So I'd already been to like Afghanistan and everything and went on this mission. And like, I'm serving with these guys that are like, I don't know how to do my own laundry. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
I bet that would be a different perspective.
But it was a good experience for me. I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I love teaching, and I learned how powerful it is to ask in what I call inspiring questions, to get deeper with somebody and learn how to actually connect with them and help them in a more intimate, personal level. It was a good experience.
Yeah. You said it helped you in your door-to-door sales. Did you get people closing the door in your face a lot?
Oh yeah, for sure. I had somebody answer the door with a shotgun.
Oh my.
Yeah. Which is funny because like I just gotten back from Afghanistan. So I like wasn't like in that moment wasn't like fearful. I was just like, I went up to him, smiled, shook his hand. I'm like, and I think it made him so mad because he didn't like intimidate me. So he like just slammed. Yeah, he just slammed the door. He was so mad.
That's funny. Okay.
But
so can you,
I learned to deal with objection.
Rejection. Okay,
rejection.
Go ahead. Yeah. Keep going on that. So I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, you're good. So the one big thing I learned is to just deal with rejection.
Yeah.
And it also helped me because it's uncomfortable to be wearing a white shirt and tie, riding bikes and everybody judging you going, oh, those are those missionary people that are
Yeah.
trying to convert us to their religion, blah, blah, blah. Which when I was doing that, I didn't look at it that way. I was just like, I want to connect with people. And if our message can help you, cool. If not, no worries. But it helped me to overcome like worrying about what other people think about me, and dealing with rejection.
Yeah.
You get a lot of rejection. So
I can imagine. I'm curious what you said the shotgun story. What's the funniest story you had from any interaction during those 2 years? Because I assume you had a lot of interactions.
yes, man, I can't think of like,
Or one that stands out. It doesn't have to be the funniest, but like just
okay,
the
one that
best
stands
interaction.
out. This was like crazy, man. And it's so funny because like when you're a missionary, you're trying to be consecrated, right? You're trying not to be the worldly you.
Yeah.
So we were teaching this family, and out of nowhere we hear like this dum, 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 coming to the front door. We're like, what the heck? And all of a sudden the front door gets kicked in, and this guy's got a crowbar and he starts bashing everything, and he's going off. The people we were teaching, it was the lady's son, and his ex-wife was there with his kids or whatever, and he was mad that his mom was visiting with her because they're not together anymore. And he was a truck driver, so he had pulled up. Anyways, he started smashing everything. And I remember getting up because I was like, dude, I'm gonna get physical with this guy. But then I was like, oh, I'm a missionary. Maybe I gotta play this a little more tactfully, and try to use my words. But anyways, long story short, he like smashed in the whole front porch of this house, and it like caved in
Oh my.
because he just tore it all up. The house like was falling apart because he just went on a rampage. But anyways, the cops came and it was all handled. But I was just like, we were teaching, we're talking about Jesus Christ, and out of nowhere, this guy just busts in the door and just starts going crazy.
That's crazy. I think in that moment I'd be sitting there thinking like, does this guy think that like I'm like in here with his wife and like he's like on the
Yeah.
road and then he's gonna hit me with his crowbar? I would probably be a little intimidated. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
I know my companion, the guy that I was with, because you serve in pairs,
Yeah.
in areas. I remember seeing him like super shaky and he was like so nervous. And he actually is the one that stopped me. So like the guy wasn't paying attention. And so I stood up and I was just going to go behind him and get him in a rear naked choke and drop him down and start choking him. But I was like, but part of me was having this inner battle too. It's like, oh, you're a missionary. You shouldn't probably be choking somebody out. I remember I stood up because I was going to go grab him. And my companion said, no, you like, just stop, dude. Like it will play out just fine. And so he kind of stopped me from like getting physical.
Probably for the best.
For sure.
Little did that guy know that he was dealing with a Reaper from the army. I mean, it's like,
yeah, which is nothing to, brag about. Like, dude, I'm a wimp.
hey, if I
anybody
know,
could beat me up.
if I know there's a Reaper from the army and they're literally called a Reaper sitting in a house, I am not going to go in the house with a crowbar. I can tell you that.
You know what's funny is like I'm gonna have some friend that like served with me over in Afghanistan, and he's gonna hear that and he's gonna be like, "Oh, dude, if only this guy knew. We're no big deal."
No, we're all wimps at the end of the day.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we
For
all
sure.
cry over drop pennies, so it's all good. We're all the
Yeah.
same. Well, I'm curious. This has been great, Jake. I'm curious as far as I'll give you the last question that I have kind of in my head. It may lead to another one. But looking ahead, if you were to sit 5 years from now and, tell yourself something, what would you look forward to telling yourself 5 years from now?
The first thing that maybe I should sit and think on that question a minute, because that's a really good question.
It's a loaded question, I know.
But I think the first thing that came to mind is like, if I were to look back, if 5 years from now, Jake, 5 years from now, if he was looking back and talking to me, he'd probably say, dude, enjoy the journey and be more present and intentional with your time.
That's really good.
I think that's probably the biggest lesson.
Yeah.
Or
and that's what
advice.
I keep hearing. Yeah, that's what I keep hearing over and over is just enjoy the journey. I mean, it's I don't know if it's Confucius that said it, but a lot of the old time guys, the new guys, they all like, it's just funny. You hear a new guy say it and he's like, oh, that's fresh, that's new. And I'm like, that's not new. That's been around for like 2,000 years. Not to bash anyone. I'm just saying like that's what I hear over and over. Just enjoy the journey. If you can enjoy the journey, the results don't really matter. You just enjoy the journey by being present. So I love that.
For sure. And it's so hard because as entrepreneurs, we're always chasing the future kind of. So it's something I've struggled with, but man, the gold nuggets are in the present, man. It's, I've realized how much I've missed out by not being present.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. The gold nuggets are in the present. That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, Jake, this has been awesome. So I know people want to reach out, learn more about you. So if they want to, where can they find you?
Yeah. So I'm all over social media. So you can just type in Jake Ingledue. You can find me on, all the platforms. If you're interested in like broader entrepreneurship type topics, or like real estate investing, or just like whatever's on my mind and like on my thoughts and heart, go to the Growth Circle podcast, check that out. But if you're specifically interested in starting and growing a pest control company to obtain financial freedom and fulfillment and create a design a life that you truly love through pest control entrepreneurship, check out that podcast. Actually, I haven't launched it yet, so it should be next week. I should launch it, but once I do, check that out. And reach out to me.
No, I would highly recommend the Growth Circle podcast. You've done some really fun episodes. So, and I mean, like, I can say that partially because I was on one of the episodes and I had a great time. So I know the job you do. So definitely reach out. People should listen to that show. And like I said, I'll put a link to that. And then once your pest control podcast launches too, I'll go back and retroactively put a link to that as well. So, but at the end of the day, Jake, thanks for sharing your wisdom. Thanks for kind of grinding. I know we talked about it, but you've done a lot. You've already got a podcast rolling. You're getting another one rolling, and thanks for just sharing and taking the time to be here. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. It's a blast being on your podcast. Like I said before, I love what you got going on. I love the concept of how important it is to fail, and to fail quickly, and to fail forward. And I love that you're sharing this message, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake.